Hi everyone, it's Emma, otherwise known as Gazette Girly, and either welcome or welcome back to my channel where I mostly talk about zines, which are handmade magazines. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all the zines I made throughout the month of June, so let's just dive right into it. So at the start of June, I actually ended up tabling, vending at Brixton Library's Readers and Writers Zine Fair. It was a really fun day and I got to meet so many amazing people and it was so lovely. There was some other zine makers there who have me on Instagram, but we'd never met in real life as well. So it was so nice to be able to actually interact with them in person too, and it was just really exciting to look around and meet other zine makers as well. However, my social anxiety was first of all really high on the day, but luckily I did have one of my emotional support besties there. But also when I left the zine fair, I just got an overwhelming amount of imposter syndrome. I was kind of why am I doing this? Do I even deserve to be putting my zines out there? So of course, in my style, I made a zine about the imposter syndrome I was experiencing, and it's called Imposter Zinedrome. And on the front cover, we have this gloriously evil stop sign saying stop making zines. He's also on the back, he is shouting, creative practice denied. So in here, I kind of just use this space to write about how I was feeling in relation to my zines. A lot of people were asking me oh, did you study art? Did you do art at uni? Are you currently doing art at uni? I'm actually a two-time university dropout and I did film and fashion marketing. And though they're very creative subjects, and I do believe a lot of skills have definitely transferred over to my zine making practice, I don't really know much about art, if I'm honest. It's just something I never really studied. I'm very much teaching myself, and I just got this fear I'm not a real artist, so why should I be putting my zines out there? And also talking about why when people ask me why do you make zines, a lot of the time it's just because I want to, and sometimes I feel saying that isn't a legitimate enough reason, even though that's also kind of a silly thought to have, because sometimes the best things you create are because you simply felt creating, not while some things definitely do need a deeper meaning, and it's also lovely when things do have a deeper meaning. I don't feel everything always needs that. Sometimes for me, I'm just in a mood to create something and just kind of get taken over by the process rather than the outcome. And I also kind of wrote about some anxieties I had, why should people care about what I make? Maybe all my zines are terrible. Am I trying to be someone I'm not? Do I even deserve to put my work out there? And guilty as charged for being a fake artist. So creating this was quite cathartic. I definitely really needed a place to just kind of unload how I was feeling and my thoughts around my zine making practice as well, especially after doing the fair, which was such a lovely day. And it's just annoying when you get that crippling self-doubt, why are you doing this? Are you good enough? But channeling it into a zine was definitely helpful. And also at the end of the day, zines are so DIY and they're one of the most accessible art forms, so anyone can make them. You do not need to be an artist to be able to make a zine, and what everyone has to say is valid. And that's also why I love zines so much, because it's so dependent on the person making the zines, how it's gonna be executed, and that's why they're exciting. There's always new things and something you can learn, and you get to understand a bit more about the creator behind the zine because they're so personal. But yeah, that is the first zine of June. The second zine I made in June is this one here, and this is a zine called Let's Dress Up. So I had an idea a while ago that I wanted to scan my favorite clothing items and accessories. A lot of my clothing, as you can tell, has really funky patterns on it. So I kind of picked out some of my favorite patterns and scanned them in, and also scanned and then edited some of my accessories to kind of give the scan this pink look, and created this Let's Dress Up zine. This zine was just me talking about my relationship to fashion, how I feel a lot of the times when I'm getting dressed, I'm almost doing drag, especially when I pull a really hyper feminine look, and it's just quite a big part of my identity as someone who's queer, and just kind of how every day when I'm getting dressed, it's I'm playing dress up, it's fun. There's a whole process behind it. I feel clothing and styling, you're just kind of collaging, but on yourself through these physical material items, and then some of them have different utilities, different textures. And I love clothing so much. I love clothes, I love fashion. I do not love a lot of things about the industry, and I also spoke about that in this, and I spoke about how I had an emo phase, how I loved playing dress up when I was a kid, this is just like a little personal zine about my relationship to fashion and styling, and it was just a really fun zine to make, and I loved scanning my favorite clothing. Also, yeah, this fish top, which I found at like Y2K wholesale, is probably one of my favorite tops ever. So she was like, she's getting in the first page here. And I just like how all the textures showed up on the page as well. And then this is the second draft because I wasn't sure how I was feeling about this. I wanted like a bit more on the cover. So it's got like a bit more of an introduction. So when people pick it up, they're like, okay, this is a mini zine on my personal style and love of dressing up. And I also have this little illustration I did of myself on it, which I feel like kind of just ties it together a bit nicely, adjusted the layout a bit, and of course corrected the many typos that were in the original one because I never proofread mini zines. I should really start doing that. But yeah, this is the second zine I made over the month of June. Now, the third zine I made in June was very special and a little different from what I usually make, and it's this zine here. This is called I Haven't Written Poetry in Around 5 Years, so here is a zine of some recent poems. And this is my first ever poetry zine. I really like the layout and how I designed it. These pressed flowers, honestly, just assets I found on Canva. I love using Canva for zine designs. I use it for Gazette for the Girls as well. And no, I do not pay for the extra stuff you can get. I always use free Canva. But this was like really fun to format, and it was also quite intense for me to do this. I get a lot of anxiety around sharing my writing, and I was recently at Glasgow Zine Fair, like literally like 3 or 4 days ago now, and this was where I debuted this zine, and it was scary seeing people reading my poetry in front of me as someone who kind of convinced themselves that writing poetry was cringe and that they weren't very good at it. But a lot of people really related to it and they really liked the zine, so it was like a very healing moment for me, even though none of the poems are very cheery. It was kind of fun like seeing the contrast of having like my very colourful, like upbeat, usually quite fun aesthetic, and then like this being there as well. But yeah, this is probably one of my favourite zines I've made this year because it's just so out of my comfort zone, and like I'm usually more of a visual zine maker. I don't use a lot of words within my zines. Like I'll write a few articles for Gazette for the Girls, but like that's kind of it. So yeah, it was just very different from me, but like different is good, and I feel like it's so important to challenge yourself creatively and just go out of your comfort zone. So yeah, we've got like, how many poems are in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there's like 9 poems in here as well. I just kind of had an evening where I just couldn't stop writing, so these were all kind of like written on the same day too. So yeah, that was the third zine of June. Now, it wouldn't be a monthly zine roundup video if I didn't share with you a zine from one of the art design workshops, of course. So Iwana hosted a workshop in South London for the first time, and as a South Londoner, I was like, I am not going to miss this, even though it's on the hottest day of the year. And this is a zine I made. When I went to the workshop, I had no idea what I was gonna end up creating, and I also wanted to challenge myself to use more words in my zine, kind of like with the poetry zine. I'm forcing myself to include more words, like write a bit more in them instead of just like purely being more of a visual person, like mixing it up a bit. So I like the idea of using magazine clippings and just kind of seeing what sentences and like prose formed from that. So the cover says grow in embedded memories, and then it was just really fun to do this collage as well, and on it says friends, ruts and potholes, the incomparable. I'm also very much in my oil pastel era. I'm loving drawing bad flowers with oil pastels. It's like the most therapeutic art process ever. And on it says captivating lovers are enough to satisfy, story alive. Honestly, don't know what it means, just like how it sounded together. And then this page is like a little funky collage page. It says camera in hand provides a foundation for global understanding and local knowledge. And then I drew this like eyeball and just wrote hide around it, and at the bottom it says emerges, he points to away. Again, don't know what that narrative is, make it up, it's yours to do with what you like. There's no structure to the zine, it was just fun creation. And then obviously I've noticed so many of my zines feature the word bloom and a giant flower in. So we were just being on theme and on brand here with the last page. Usually when I run out of ideas, I'm like, yeah, it's flower and bloom time, let's just go with it. And then the back page, I cut out these spirals and then drew a load of spirals on. So yeah, this was the workshop zine of June. And then the last zine I made in June was a really exciting sequel and also dedicated to my little hamster Alaska, who unfortunately passed away towards the end of June. He was almost 3 years old. He was an old man hamster. It was a very, very sad day and I cried a lot. However, the day after, I decided to honor him and make Rodent Affirmations too. So one of my all-time favorite digital mini zines that I've made is Rodent Affirmations. Basically just pictures of rodents with some affirmations, and they're on very funky backgrounds. And this is one of my favorite zines to create because I will come up with like affirmations depending on what the rodent looks like. So this is the front cover of the new Rodent Affirmations. And of course we featured this diva, the small violin hamster. This is also the same kind of hamster that Alaska was too, so she was the opener. And it says, "Crying does not make me weak, neither does going back on antidepressants." And then here we have this slightly mischievous looking rat, and it says, "There is no stopping my sense of whimsical or desire to overthrow the government. I am a dreamer and a doer." And then, anxious mess hamster. "It's okay to be an anxious wreck every now and then." That is the affirmation. It's okay. We all have anxiety. And then here we have this little mouse with giant ears, and it says, "I will no longer listen to anyone's nonsense." And then this very curious looking mole creature coming out of his little hole. "I remain curious about the world around me." And this is probably my favorite page in this. It's a drawing of a hamster and the affirmation is, "I'm real." And then on the back we have this glorious little guinea pig, and it says, "You are now a fern." Honestly, Rodent Affirmations and Rodent Affirmations 2, probably some of my favorite zines I've ever made. They also always do really well at zine fair, so if you've brought a Rodent Affirmations, like, thank you so much. Like, I literally love making these, and I feel like I might make a new Rodent Affirmations each year. So if I'm making zines in 12 years time, there may be 12 editions of Rodent Affirmations. So anyway, those are the zines I made throughout the month of June, and thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below any zines you made over the last month. I would absolutely love to see them, and thank you so much for watching.